You ever wonder why you're still in the same place you were 12 months ago? It's not because you lack talent. It's not because you didn't have the resources. It's because every time the pressure hit, you walked away. You started, but you never finished. And I came here to tell you today, it's not what you start that will define your legacy. It's what you finish. Let me make something clear. Finishing is not about motivation. It's about maturity. You think you're going to feel like grinding every day. You think you're going to wake up and the heavens will open and you'll be handed energy and excitement. No, the secret power of finishing is this. You learn to move even when your feelings are frozen. You stop letting your emotions play quarterback for your destiny. You know why so many people quit halfway? Because they're addicted to beginnings. They're in love with the hype. They love the compliments, the newness, but I'm about Tog. But when the noise dies down, when it's quiet, when the work gets lonely, that's where the real warriors rise. The finishers don't need claps. They need clarity. See, I used to think I had to feel something to do something until I learned the secret detachment is strength. When you detach from the need to be celebrated, from the need to be seen, from the need to feel good every moment, you become unstoppable. You ain't chasing the thrill. You're not a crown made of gold, but a throne built from obedience to your calling. You know what else? Finishing requires that you bury the old version of yourself. That lazy you, that distracted you, that impulsive, emotionally you have potential but no discipline. Because finishing isn't about time management. It's about soul management. It's about choosing destiny over dopamine. People ask me, how do I keep going when it hurts? I tell them because the pain has a purpose. The pain is proof that you're close. That something is breaking. That your old limitations are gasping for air. And every time you keep moving, even when your flesh is screaming to stop, you're announcing to the universe, I'm built for this. Listen to me. You don't finish things just to check off a box. You finish things because it honors the greatness inside of you. You finish because there's somebody waiting on the other side of your breakthrough. You finish because the blessing isn't in the start, it's in the stamina. You got to kill the noise, shut off the world, cut the distractions, block the drama. You got to get spiritually selfish and say, I will not be moved. I will not be manipulated by feelings. I will finish what God put in my hands. Let everybody else talk. Let them post. Let them celebrate what they just began. You execute, you grind in silence, you war in private. And when the time comes, you don't make an announcement. You let the results speak the loudest. Because in the end, it's not about how loud you start. It's about how strong you finish. And I declare right now, you will finish. Not because it's easy, not because it's popular, but because it's who you are. You were born to complete, born to conquer, born to finish. Not go prove it. Finishing is a spiritual covenant, not just an act of willpower, but a commitment of your soul to the calling placed on your life. When you decide to finish something, you're not simply checking a task off your list. You're stepping into divine agreement with your purpose. You are honoring the assignment that was uniquely handed to you by something far greater than yourself. Starting is easy. Starting makes you feel good. It gives you a rush, a sense of possibility. But finishing requires a different kind of strength. It requires spiritual maturity. It demands that you recognize the value of completion, not for accolades or approval, but because your soul knows it's the right thing to do. There's a sacred power in finishing what you start. It's not about perfection. It's about integrity. It's about being who you said you would be, doing what you said you would do. When you commit to a goal and bring it to completion, you're not just building habits, you're building character. And character is currency in the spiritual realm. It's how doors open. It's how breakthroughs happen. Because heaven doesn't reward intentions. It rewards faithfulness. You can talk all day about vision, about plans, about dreams, but until you finish, until you follow through, it's all potential. And potential never changes lives. Finished assignments do. Finishing connects you to your higher self. It's a signal that you trust the process, that you're willing to endure the silence, the boredom, the setbacks, and still move forward. That's spirit deeper than motivation. That's covenant. And when you make that covenant, you stop needing external things to validate your journey. You stop waiting for someone to cheer you on. You don't need to be reminded of why you started because you never forgot. Your memory lives in your spirit. Your commitment is written on your heart. When you truly understand that finishing is a spiritual covenant, you start to treat your work, your goals, and your time with reverence. You stop playing small. You stop quitting when it gets inconvenient, negotiating with excuses. You move like someone who understands that your obedience is part of someone else's miracle. Someone is waiting on the version of you that finishes. Someone's breakthrough is attached to your follow through. So when you feel tired, when you feel like giving up, you remember this isn't about feelings. It's about faith. You finish because you gave your word. You finish because you know the power of completion is not just in the result, but in who you become by refusing to quit. And when you do finish, something shifts inside you. A new level of authority is born. Not the kind that comes from titles, but the kind that comes from consistency, from alignment, from honoring what you were called to do. That's the real power. The spiritual covenant finish, starting feeds the ego, finishing humbles it. The moment you begin something new, there's a natural excitement that comes with it. People notice. You feel energized. The ego rises because starting gives the illusion of progress. It gives you something to talk about. You can post about it, plan it, dream about it, and all of that gives you a temporary high. But finishing strips away the ego because it doesn't care about how loud you started. It demands silence, sacrifice, and stamina. Finishing is lonely. It's quiet. And that's where the real growth happens. Not in the applause of beginnings, but in the humility of endurance. Ego wants to be seen. Ego wants credit. Ego wants recognition for even the idea of starting, but finishing doesn't often come with fanfares. It's not glamorous. It's not always rewarded publicly. It happens when no one can. It's the 4 a.m. grind. It's the nights when everyone else is sleeping and you're still working. It's the days when your motivation is gone, but you show up anyway. And every time you push forward, despite how you feel, the ego shrinks because the ego wants comfort, not completion. It thrives in fantasy, but finishing forces reality. That's why finishing is so powerful. It teaches you to get over yourself. It teaches you that your calling is not about how it looks. It's about how it lives. It lives in your discipline. It lives in your follow through. It lives in your character. You start to realize that finishing isn't about you getting the spotlight. It's about you carrying the weight of responsibility with excellence. It's not about impressing others. It's about fulfilling what was assigned to you. That shift from ego to humility is where greatness is born. You can start in things and finish none of them. And your ego will still try to convince you that you're making progress. But progress isn't measured by motion. It's measured by results. Completion. Fulfillment. Every time you finish, you silence the ego and elevate the spirit. Because finishing doesn't just require action. It requires surrender. You have to surrender your pride, your impatience, your desire for quick wins. You have to get out ahead into your purpose. And what you find on the other side of finishing is something deeper than validation. It's wisdom. It's perspective. It's strength that can't be taught, only earned. The ego doesn't give you that. The ego gives you noise. Finishing gives you truth. Finishing forces you to dig past your limitations, your excuses, your desire to be admired and find something greater, something lasting. That's why it humbles you, because you realize how much it actually takes to see something through. And in that humility, you find your real power, not in what people say about you, but in the quiet confidence that comes from honoring what you were meant to complete. Most people attach their identity to the emotion of starting, but true greatness is born in detachment required to finish without validation. Starting feels good. It feels inspiring and exciting. The beginning of any journey carries energy, hope, and the illusion that everything will go smoothly. That emotion becomes addictive. It's why people love to start new projects, new goals, routines, but when that emotion fades, and it always does, so does their commitment, because their identity was tied to the feeling, not the finish. Starting gives you the attention. You can talk about it. You can make announcements. You can receive praise for simply having the courage to begin. But beginnings are deceptive because they don't require transformation. Anyone can get hyped up and start. It takes no discipline to get excited. But when the excitement wears off, when the emotions fade, and no one is cheering anymore, that's when your true self is revealed. That's when greatness begins to form, because now it's not about being seen. It's about being faithful. You have to learn to detach from the need to be validated for every move you make. That emotional high can't be your fuel. If you're only moving when people are watching or when you feel motivated, you'll never finish anything that matters. You have to get to a point where the work becomes sacred, where it's not about how it feels, but about what it means, where your identity isn't wrapped up in how many things you start, but in how many things you're willing to finish, even when it costs you comfort. Detachment isn't cold. It's focused. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care so much that you don't need to be entertained or praised to stay committed. You understand the mission is bigger than the mood. You train yourself to keep walking even when the road is long and silent. That's where true confidence is born. Not in the moment you begin, but in the moments when you're tempted to quit and choose instead to keep showing up. The people who achieve real, lasting impact aren't the ones who started with the most excitement. They're the ones who finished with the most consistency. They made peace with silence. They didn't need applause to validate their path. They were driven by something deeper in emotion, purpose. They could walk through doubt, delay, and discouragement because they weren't addicted to the feeling. They were anchored in the calling. So when you find yourself chasing the next new thing just because it feels good, pause. Ask yourself, am I attached to the emotion or the outcome? Am I in love with beginnings or committed to the finish? Because in the end, only one of those will lead to growth. Only will shape your character, and only will legacy that outlives the emotion. Your emotions are not your compass. Your purpose is. Emotions are temporary, unpredictable, and reactive. They rise and fall based on circumstances, mood, and even the weather. One moment you feel like taking on the world, the next you feel like quitting. If you allow those shifting emotions to guide your life, you'll live in circles, starting and stopping, rising and falling, never reaching the fulfillment your soul was created for. But when purpose becomes your compass, you no longer need to feel good to move forward. You just move because you know where you're going. Most people mistake passion for purpose, but passion is often tied to emotion, and purpose is tied to commitment. Passion can spark the journey, but only purpose can sustain it. Purpose gives you direction when everything else seems uncertain. It tells you what to do when you're tired, confused, or frustrated. It speaks louder than fear, doubt, louder than the voice in your head telling you to give up. Purpose isn't a feeling, it's a foundation. Every goal worth achieving will test your emotions. There will be days when your heart feels heavy, when your energy is gone, when your enthusiasm is nowhere to be found. And that's where most people lose the fight, because they were trained to follow feelings, not purpose. But maturity looks like saying, I don't feel it, but I'm still going to do it. It's showing up on the days you rather hide. It's working in silence while others quit in noise. That's the difference between the average and the exceptional. The ability to stay aligned with purpose, not emotion. Think about a compass. No matter where you turn it, no matter how lost you feel, the needle always points true. That's how purpose operates in your life. It gives you truth in the middle of confusion. But emotions, they point in every direction. They shift with every opinion, every setback, every small win or loss. If you let emotions drive your decision, you'll abandon the mission every time it stops feeling good. But if purpose is driving, you'll push through storms, delays, and deserts because your soul remembers where it's headed. Purpose demands discipline, and discipline is rarely emotional. It's consistent. It's unshakable. It's a decision to build even when the excitement is gone. When you anchor yourself in purpose, you gain a power that emotions can't touch. You gain clarity, endurance, and peace. You're no longer tossed by every wave of feeling. You become rooted. So don't confuse your emotional state with your destiny. Feelings are real, but they're not reliable. They're indicators, not instructors. Let them pass through, but don't let them steer. Let purpose be your guide. Let it speak louder than how you feel in the moment. Because when the journey is long, when the weight is heavy, when no one's watching, your emotions may waver, but your purpose will remain. And that's what will carry you to the finish. A spiritual detachment doesn't mean you feel less. It means you feel more aligned with the mission, not the moment. It's not about shutting off your heart or becoming numb to your emotions. It's about refusing to let those emotions dictate your commitment to the path you were called to walk. People often misunderstand detachment. They think it's cold, distant, robotic. But true detachment, especially in a spiritual sense, is actually freedom. It's the freedom to act on purpose instead of reacting to pressure. It's the ability to stay rooted in what matters, even when everything around you is trying to pull you away. When you're emotionally attached to every twist and turn in your journey, you become a slave to circumstance. Every setback feels personal. Every delay feels like a defeat. You begin to measure your worth based on progress that can be seen or validated by others. But when you're spiritually detached, you understand that not every slow season is a setback. Some of them are sacred. Not every silence is abandonment. Some are attachment allows you to stop interpreting discomfort as failure and start seeing it as preparation. Detachment also means you don't get overly high when things go right or overly low when things go wrong. You stop being ruled by the outcome and start being governed by obedience. You don't chase feelings, you chase fulfillment. You're not constantly asking, how does this make me feel? Instead, you ask, is this in alignment with my purpose? That kind of clarity makes you dangerous to anything that was sent to distract you, because now you're not moved by applause, not shaken by silence, and not stopped by struggle. It's easy to get caught up in moments. Success can seduce you. Failure can paralyze. Approval can trap you. Criticism can crush you. But when your soul is anchored in purpose and you've detached from the highs and lows of the moment, you walk with power. You'll operate with precision, no longer tossed around by things that used to derail you. You can feel deeply and still move wisely. You care fully and still protect your peace. That's what it means to be spiritually detached. It's choosing mission over mood. It's the quiet strength of someone who doesn't need to prove themselves anymore. Someone who doesn't perform for attention, but walks in authority. Someone who isn't desperate to feel good all the time because they know their calling is worth every ounce of discomfort. Detachment is maturity. It's self-mastery. It's trusting that the process is doing its working when you can't see it. So don't be afraid to detach. Not from people, not from dreams, not from emotions, but from the need to control the outcome. Attach yourself to purpose, to principles, to peace. And when the moment comes to finish what you started, you won't hesitate because you won't be trying to feel something. You'll be aligned with something. And that alignment will carry you through what emotion never could. Finishing demands the death of excuses. You must bury your comfort to birth your destiny. You can't bring both into the same room. One will always kill the other. Excuses are the language of the detachment from distractions is an act of war. You are either feeding your vision or feeding your enemy. Every single day you're in a battle, a war between who you are and who you're called to become. And distractions are the weapons the enemy uses to keep you comfortable, entertained, and off course. They don't always show up as obviously destructive. Sometimes they look like small delays, endless scrolling conversations, or unimportant tasks disguised as productivity. They feel harmless, even justice, but over time, they drain your focus, dilute your energy, and suffocate your vision. When you begin something with passion and clarity, you have a direct connection to your purpose. But the longer you stay in the game, the more distractions start to creep in. They whisper lies that you have more time. They convince you to wait for a better moment. They tempt you with comfort when you're meant to be sharpening your discipline. That's why detachment is not passive. It's a form of spiritual warfare. It's a conscious decision to say, I will no longer entertain anything that weakens my mission. There's no neutral ground when it comes to focus. Every choice is either building your future or stealing it. You think that 5 minutes on your phone doesn't matter. You think skipping your schedule just for today won't hurt. But every moment you feed your distractions, you starve your purpose. And the problem is not just that distractions waste time. It's that they slowly convince you that you don't need to finish. They make the urgent seem more important than the essential. They steal your hunger and replace it with hesitation. When you detach from distractions, you reclaim authority over your mind. You stop living by reaction, start living by intention. You stop being a slave to notifications, to know opinions of others, and you start taking command of your house, your thoughts, your energy. That's why it's war, because it costs you something. You have to cut things off. You have to silence voices, close tabs, shut down conversations, and sometimes even walk away from people who don't respect your focus. That's not arrogant. It's alignment. Distractions don't just delay your goals. They distort your identity. They pull you away from your deepest convictions and make you forget why you started in the first place. But when you detach, you get clear. You remember what's at stake. You realize that your vision isn't just a dream, it's a responsibility. And anything that pulls you from that is a threat, not a break. So wage war with focus. Protect it like your future depends on it, because it does. Be ruthless with your environment. Be honest about what's stealing your strength. Because when you finally detach from every distraction that used to delay you, you will tap into a power that was always there, waiting for your full attention. And in that moment, you don't just make progress, you step into destiny with both hands free. Discipline is divine. Every time you finish, you worship with action, not words. Discipline is not just a habit or a mindset. It is a spiritual posture. It's how you show the world and yourself that you are serious about what you were created to do. You can pray, you can hope, you can speak affirmations over your life. But if you don't show up with consistency, if you don't grind through the moments that are uncomfortable, inconvenient, and unseen, then your faith has no legs. Discipline is faith with feet on the ground. It is the evidence that you're not just talking about purpose. You're walking in it. Talk is cheap. Excitement fades. Motivation disappears. But discipline stays when feelings leave. Discipline is the bridge between the life you dream about and the life you build. It's the quiet yes. You give your calling every single day. It's waking up early, showing up fully, staying focused, sacrificing now for something greater later. And that isn't just about ambition. It's about reverence. Because when you have something sacred in your hands, a gift, a vision, a mission, you don't treat it casually. You honor it, and you honor with discipline. Some people, discipline is rigid or harsh, but real discipline is love in motion. It's love for your future self. It's love for the people who will benefit from your obedience. It's love for the one who gave you the gift in the first place. Because finishing what you start isn't just about achievement, it's about alignment. It's about matching your actions with the greatness that already exists inside you. You can't claim to want destiny, but refuse to embrace discipline. Destiny is not delivered by accident. It's built brick by brick, decision by decision. Every time you choose the hard thing over the easy one, you're declaring, I'm serious about my assignment. Every time you work when no one's watching, when no one's praising you, when no one's even acknowledging the effort, that's worship. That's sacrifice. That's discipline being expressed devotion. And make no mistake, discipline is spiritual warfare. Because every day you stay consistent is the day you silence doubt, fear, and temptation. Every time you resist the urge to quit, you strengthen the part of you that's been called to finish. It's not just about getting things done. It's about becoming someone who refuses to live beneath their potential. It's about becoming someone who takes the responsibility of purpose seriously. Discipline is divine because it produces fruit that emotions never could. It builds integrity, resilience, and power. It makes you trustworthy, not just in the eyes of others, but in the eyes of heaven. You become someone who can carry weight, someone who can lead, someone who can finish. So don't run from discipline. Embrace it, honor, live it. Because every discipline step is a step toward destiny. And every time you finish, you are testifying through your actions that your calling is worth the cost. The ones who finish don't chase feelings. They chase fulfillment. And fulfillment is forged with not fleeting excitement. Feelings are allowed at the start that they'll hype you up, fill your heart with fire, and give you all the right words. But they're unreliable. They disappear when things get hard, when the applause fades, or when the grind becomes lonely. People who are led by feelings will always be inconsistent. They'll start strong but disappear in the middle. They'll set goals but never meet them. They'll talk big but finish small. Because feelings can carry you for a mile, but they can't carry you through a marathon. Fulfillment, on the other hand, is deeper. It doesn't live in emotion. It lives in purpose. It's rooted in obedience. When you're chasing fulfillment, you're not moved by mood swings. You're moved by mission. You don't need constant inspiration because you've made an inner decision that you're going to finish what you started no matter how you feel. And that's the difference between hype and hollowness, between those who chase the thrill of beginning and those who seek the reward of becoming. Faith is what carries you from start to finish. Not blind hope, but steady trust that what you're doing has meaning, even when you can't see the results right away. It's waking up every day and saying, I may not feel it, but I know it's worth it. It's showing up with consistency when everything around you tells you to quit. Faith fills the gap between what's hard and what's holy. It allows you to keep going without applause, to grind without recognition, and to serve without validation. The world celebrates feelings. It teaches you to follow your heart, to do what feels right, to quit when it gets uncomfortable. But fulfillment lives on the other side of uncomfortable. It lives in a place where you choose faith over ease, where you deep when you're tired, where you finish strong even when nobody's watching. And when you get there, when you finally finish, you realize it was never about excitement. It was always about becoming. Those who chase feelings will keep searching for the next thing to excite them. They'll never settle into the work that actually transforms them. But the ones who chase fulfillment, they know the difference. They know that joy is different from happiness. That growth is different from hype. They don't need loud moment. They need lasting progress. And they're willing to go through silence, struggle, and solitude to get there. If you want to finish, you've got to stop asking, how do I feel? And start asking, what am I building? You have to trade your addiction to temporary emotions for a commitment to eternal impact. Fulfillment doesn't show up in the first mile. It shows up in the finish line. When you look back and realize you didn't just chase a feeling, you chased your calling. And you caught it because you refused to stop. Finishing is not about applause. It's about alignment with the higher calling on your life. If you live for the cheers, for the like, the praise, you'll always stop short of what you were meant to become. because the crowd doesn't always follow the calling. The crowd shows up at the start. They might show up at the finish, but they rarely stay through the middle. And the middle is where your character is tested. The middle is where most people quit. That's where alignment matters more than attention. Applause can push you to perform, but it can't make you transform. True transformation only comes when you align your will with a purpose bigger than yourself. That's what finishing really is. It's not just the completion of a task. It's the honoring of a purpose. It's the evidence that you were willing to sacrifice comfort, popularity, and temporary recognition to fulfill something eternal. When you're aligned with your higher calling, you no longer need validation to stay motivated. You know who you are and why you're doing it. And that knowing will take you further than any audience ever could. When you finish something, it's not about proving your worth. It's about expressing your obedience. It's saying, I stayed when it got hard. I kept going when it didn't make sense. I completed the assignment even when no one clapped. That's what alignment's like. It's not glamorous. It's not always exciting, but it's powerful because it means your steps were governed by truth, not trends, by purpose, not popularity. And when you live from that place, you become dangerous to anything that was trying to stop you. Finishing aligns you with the version of you that God always saw, the focused you, the disciplined you, the you that doesn't need the world to understand the assignment because you already understand the one who gave it to you. That alignment gives you clarity, peace, and strength. It gives you the confidence to say no to distractions and yes to discipline. It grounds you when the journey feels shaky, and it reminds you that your calling is not up for public vote. It's a personal conviction. Applause fades. Accolades come and go. But alignment, that stays with you, anchors you. It prepares you for the next assignment. It grows something in you that can't be shaken by criticism or inflated by compliments. Finishing is a declaration that you care more about being faithful than being famous, that you're more committed to the mission in the moment. So finish strong, not for the crowd, not for the credit, but because finishing keeps you in alignment with who we're created to be. And when your life is aligned, your impact multiplies, your influence expands, your peace deepens. Because now you're no longer living for recognition, you're living from revelation. And that's the kind of power that doesn't just finish goals, it changes lives. So here's the truth. You were never called just to start. You were called to finish. The world doesn't need another person with potential. It needs someone with perseverance, someone who doesn't flinch in the face of resistance, someone who doesn't bow to emotion, who doesn't fold under pressure, who doesn't need applause to stay committed. The world needs of you locked in, focused, aligned, and relentless. Don't you die with your greatness still inside of you. Don't you dare quit just because it's hard. You were built to endure. You were designed to complete. And every time you choose discipline over distraction, purpose over pleasure, fulfillment over feelings, you are proving that destiny lives in you. Finishing is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's your legacy. Your story won't be remembered for how loud you started, but for how strong you finished. So stand up, lock in, go back and finish what you started, not for applause, not for validation, but because all your future is waiting on the other side of your follow through. And when you do, you won't just cross the finish line. You'll awaken the finisher inside of you.